Have you ever felt the breath of history on your neck? A chill that whispers tales from forgotten ages? Have you walked a path where the very stones beneath your feet hum with the echoes of ancient secrets, of fierce battles, of whispered legends? If so, then prepare yourself. For today we journey to a place where the veil between worlds feels perpetually thin, where the salt-laced wind carries stories of the sacred and the profane, of light extinguished and shadows that refuse to die. Today we cast our gaze upon the rugged, mystical coastline of North Yorkshire, to a town steeped in both stark beauty and chilling lore, Whitby. For centuries, Whitby has stood as a sentinel on England's eastern edge, a fishing port, a haven, a place of spiritual solace. But beneath its picturesque surface, beneath the cheerful clatter of its cobbled streets, and the hopeful bobbing of its fishing boats, lies a darkness as ancient and enduring as the cliffs themselves. This is a land where the earth remembers, where the sea guards its own grim truths, and where certain tales refuse to remain buried. Our journey into Whitby's time-worn tapestry begins not with the clinking of teacups in its charming guest houses, nor the vibrant hues of its famous jet jewelry. No, our path takes a turn into the twilight, towards the very foundations of its legends, a place where sacred ground was first broken, and where, some say, something else broke free. To truly understand the strange, compelling narrative of Whitby, we must first travel back, far beyond the Victorian era, and the Gothic tales that would later cling to its cliffs like sea mist. We journey to the 7th century, to an age when Christianity was still a nascent, sometimes precarious faith in these wild northern lands. Here, amidst the windswept headland then known as Saint, a formidable woman, a Northumbrian princess, made her mark. Her name was Hild. Hild was a woman of immense intellect, unwavering piety, and formidable leadership. In 657 AD, she founded a double monastery here, housing both monks and nuns. Under her guidance, Saint, later to be known as Whitby Abbey, became a beacon of learning and spiritual enlightenment. It was a place where kings consulted, where scholars flourished, and where, critically, the future of Christianity in England was hotly debated. This monastery, under Hild's wise leadership, fostered a spiritual power so profound it seemed to touch the very heavens. Yet, even in this hallowed place, the ancient forces of the land, the echoes of pagan beliefs lingered, and sometimes the very intensity of its sanctity seemed to attract its antithesis. This hallowed ground bore witness to a pivotal moment in English history, the Synod of Whitby in 1664 AD. Here, the Celtic Christian traditions, with their distinct dating of Easter and monastic practices, clashed with the Roman customs championed by Wilfrid. It was a debate that would shape the religious landscape of England for centuries to come. King Oswy of Northumbria ultimately sided with the Roman traditions, a decision that cemented England's spiritual allegiance with Rome and, some might argue, laid the foundation for its future as a powerful European nation. Whitby, therefore, stands not just as a ruin, but as a silent testament to profound historical shifts, to choices that echoed through the ages. Narrator: but the glory of Hild's monastery, like all earthly things, was not destined to last forever. The tranquility of this sacred promontory would be shattered, not by theological debate, but by the brutal, blood-soaked tide of invasion. The wind that had once carried the chants of monks and nuns would soon carry the screams of the dying, and the scent of incense would be replaced by the acrid smell of smoke and fear. For from across the gray, churning North Sea, a new terror was awakening, a force that knew nothing of piety and cared only for plunder and conquest. The age of the Vikings was dawning, and Whitby, with its strategic position and its accumulated wealth, lay squarely in their path. Imagine the fear, the utter despair, as the longships, like monstrous black insects, appeared on the horizon. The thunder of their oars, the war cries echoing across the water, these were the harbingers of destruction. In 867 AD, the great heathen army, a relentless tide of Norse warriors, swept through Northumbria. They sacked monasteries, razed settlements, and left a trail of devastation in their wake. Whitby Abbey, once a beacon of learning and faith, was not spared. It was utterly destroyed, its stones scattered, its precious manuscripts burned, its community dispersed or slaughtered. For nearly 2 centuries the hallowed grounds lay, desolate, a silent, wind-swept monument to forgotten glory, overgrown with gorse and memory. Narrator. Yet the land itself seems to hold on to its stories. Even in desolation something lingered. Perhaps it was the echoes of prayer, or perhaps the lingering presence of the violence that had engulfed it. For when, centuries later, the Normans arrived to rebuild and reclaim, they found more than just scattered stones. They found a place imbued with a palpable energy, a sense of something ancient and watchful. And it is in this rebirth, this attempt to impose new order upon old wild ground, that the first tendrils of Whitby's darker legends truly begin to intertwine, like roots grasping for purchase in the rocky soil. In the late 11th century, after the Norman conquest, a new Benedictine monastery rose from the ashes of Hild's foundation. These were different times, different builders, different prayers. But the very act of building anew upon such hallowed and violently desecrated ground seemed to awaken something. The bloodshed here, the ancient pagan energies of the headland, the very concept of a broken seal of sanctity, all began to coalesce into the potent, unsettling atmosphere that defines Whitby to this day. And as the centuries turned, as the winds weathered its stones and the tides gnawed at its cliffs, Whitby began to attract other stories, darker tales, some whispered in hushed tones, others penned by the most imaginative minds. Tales that would ultimately transform this quiet fishing town into the Gothic heart of a legend that chills us to our core. For it is here, amidst these very stones, that a certain ship, battered and ghost-like, would run aground. And it is from her decaying timbers that something truly ancient and monstrous would emerge, bringing with it the taste of blood, the rustle of leathery wings, and the chilling realization that some seals, once broken, can never truly be mended. This, my friends, is where our tale truly begins to drink from the shadows. Narrator, the year is 1897. The world stands on the precipice of a new century, brimming with scientific marvels and the promise of progress. Yet, in the quiet, isolated corners of England, ancient fears still lurk, just beneath the veneer of gaslight and Victorian propriety. It is into this world, specifically into the seemingly tranquil harbor of Whitby, that an unimaginable terror is about to be unleashed. Narrator, her name was the Demeter, a Russian schooner outbound from Varna on the Black Sea, her cargo, a mysterious consignment of 50 large boxes filled with earth. Her journey, a desperate, silent race against an unseen pursuer. For weeks she had sailed, her crew slowly, dwindling one by one to an unknown, horrifying fate. The logbook, discovered later, would tell a fragmented tale of mounting dread, of a presence on board, an evil that fed upon the living. Imagine the stark terror of those final days, trapped on a small vessel with an invisible, insatiable predator, the vast, unforgiving ocean their only witness. Then, one brutal night, a tempest of unimaginable fury descended upon the English coast. The kind of storm that strips trees bare and reshapes coastlines, a maelstrom that seemed to possess a malevolent will of its own. It was a night when the very elements conspired to drive a desperate, phantom vessel towards its inevitable, terrifying rendezvous with destiny. And as dawn reluctantly broke, revealing a gray, bruised sky, the people of Whitby awoke to a chilling sight. Narrator, there, amidst the churning foam and the scattered debris of the storm, lay the Demeter run aground on Tate Hill sands. Her sails were ripped to shreds, her mast broken. She drifted, lifeless and abandoned, a ghostly hulk coughed up by the tempest. But it was not merely her derelict state that sent a collective shiver down the spines of the townsfolk who gathered on the shore. It was the silence, the profound, unnatural silence. There was no living soul aboard, no captain, no crew. Only a single large dog, described as dark and wolf-like, found leaping from the ship and disappearing into the labyrinthine streets of the town, vanishing, as if into the very fabric of the shadows. Narrator, this sudden, inexplicable arrival, this ship of the dead, was a profound shock to the quiet rhythms of Whitby. The storm had passed, but it had left behind a different kind of darkness. The local authorities, bewildered by the mystery, began their investigation. The ship's logbook, a chilling testament to the crew's escalating terror, spoke of an unseen presence, a creature that emerged from the hold each night, preying upon the sailors one by one. The captain's final entry, scrawled in desperate haste, spoke of himself being the last survivor, binding himself to the helm as the monstrous entity pursued him. His body was found lashed to the wheel, a rosary clutched in his hand, his eyes wide open, staring into eternity. The very air around the ship felt cold, heavy, as if an immense, unseen weight had descended upon the town. But the true horror had not merely arrived on the Demeter. It had, in that chaotic leap, from ship to shore, silently, stealthily, stepped onto English soil. The arrival of the Demeter was merely the dramatic, terrifying overture to a symphony of blood and shadow that was about to begin. The broken seal that our tale alludes to was not just the physical seal of the ship's hold, but the ancient, unseen barrier between worlds, between the living and the truly undead. And this barrier, in the raw chaos of that storm-battered night, had been irrevocably breached. For as the townsfolk puzzled over the mysteries of the Demeter, a new, insidious presence began to make itself known. A pervasive coldness in the air, a chilling silence that sometimes fell over familiar streets, and then the unsettling whispers. Whispers of pale, gaunt figures seen only in the dead of night, of strange comings and goings from an imposing house in the town, and most disturbingly, of unaccounted for disappearances. Whitby, once a place of spiritual light, was now becoming a hunting ground for something ancient, something predatory, something utterly devoid of human empathy. And it is here, amidst the towering, silent ruins of Whitby Abbey, that this ancient evil chose to make its roost. The very place where Saint Hild had sought to bring light and knowledge, where the pious had once worshipped, now became the daytime sanctuary of a creature of pure darkness. A creature who, according to lore, sleeps not in a coffin but in the earth of his native soil, transported in those very boxes that were the Demeter's chilling cargo. This was no mere beast, no simple monster from the deep. This was something far more insidious, far more intelligent, and infinitely more dangerous. This, my friends, is the moment when the legend of Whitby truly intertwines with the immortal tale of Dracula. Bram Stoker, the master of Gothic horror, drew inspiration from this very place, from its brooding atmosphere, its historical echoes, and perhaps from some unspoken dread that had always lingered in its salt-laced air. The arrival of the Demeter in his novel is not just a plot device. It is the cataclysmic event that brings the king of vampires to English shores, beginning his reign of terror from the very heart of this ancient town. The blood was about to begin flowing. The bats would soon cast their ominous shadows, and the sacred seals, broken first by Viking axe, now felt the chilling touch of something far more sinister. The fictionalized terror that Bram Stoker unleashed upon Whitby and Dracula resonated far beyond the pages of his novel. It became inextricably woven into the very fabric of the town's identity, transforming this ancient fishing port into a global pilgrimage site for lovers of Gothic literature, horror, and the supernatural. The blood, bats, and broken seals of Stoker's narrative were not merely a story. They became a lens through which Whitby itself is now perceived, a testament to the enduring power of myth to shape reality. The annual Whitby Goth Weekend, a vibrant theatrical gathering of thousands of goths, punks, and alternative subcultures, stands as the most visible manifestation of this cultural embrace. It's a celebration of darkness, beauty, and individuality, drawn directly to the town's Gothic resonance. Here, amidst the historical ruins and the churning sea, the lines between reality and fiction blur in a fascinating spectacle of self-expression. The town, once a quiet stage for a fictional horror, now revels in its role as the spiritual home of the modern Gothic movement. But beyond the literary influence, Whitby's unique atmosphere has always fostered a rich tapestry of local legends and superstitions that predates Stoker's masterpiece. The broken seals extend beyond the metaphorical breach of Dracula's arrival. They speak to the deep-seated belief in other liminal spaces, other thin places where the mundane gives way to the magical and sometimes the terrifying. Consider the phantom black dog, a persistent figure in British folklore, often a harbinger of ill omen or a guardian of ancient sites. Was the wolf-like dog that leapt from the Demeter merely a creature of flesh and blood, or was it an echo of these ancient spectral canines drawn to the rising tide of darkness? Local tales speak of Barghest, a terrifying spectral hound with glowing eyes, said to roam the moors and coastal paths, a chilling precursor to death. These deeply ingrained fears of the unseen, of creatures that blur the line between animal and spirit, provided a rich, dark canvas upon which Stoker painted his most famous monster. And the concept of blood in Whitby's lore extends beyond vampiric sustenance. It speaks to the ancient sacrifices made to the unforgiving sea, the lives lost in its treacherous depths, the very essence of human vulnerability against the might of nature. The fishing community for centuries lived in a constant negotiation with the ocean's whims, understanding intimately the cost of survival. This visceral connection to life and death, to the ebb and flow of existence, made the town a uniquely potent setting for a story about a creature that defies these very natural laws. Even the jet, Whitby's famous black gemstone mined from the surrounding cliffs, carries a resonance of darkness and ancient energy. Formed from fossilized wood over millions of years, it is a tangible piece of deep time, a silent witness to countless epochs. Once believed to ward off evil and absorb negativity, its dark, lustrous beauty paradoxically aligns with the Gothic aesthetic that now defines much of Whitby's mystique. It is a jewel born of transformation, of deep pressure and time, mirroring the profound changes the town itself has undergone. So, what began with the sacred promise of Saint Hild was shattered by Viking blades and then fundamentally reshaped by the haunting pen of Bram Stoker, has culminated in a town that truly embodies its complex, multi-layered history. Whitby is a living testament to the enduring power of story, where the echoes of monks' prayers mingle with the whispers of vampires, and the crash of the North Sea waves seems to hum with the tales of both heroism and horror. The broken seals of Whitby are not merely wounds, they are the very fissures through which its unique magic pours. They are the cracks in time that allow us to glimpse the ancient paganism beneath the Christian veneer, the harrowing reality of Viking raids beneath Norman arches, and the chilling fantasy of Dracula beneath the charming Victorian facade. Whitby stands as a powerful reminder that history is never truly linear, and that the stories we tell, both real and imagined, possess an extraordinary power to shape our world, our perceptions, and the very air we breathe. From the sacred stones of Hild's Abbey to the chilling legend of the Count, Whitby is a place where every shadow holds a secret, and every whisper on the wind carries a tale. Are the old fears truly gone, or do they merely sleep, waiting for the next ship to arrive, the next seal to break? Perhaps in the deep night, if you listen closely to the wind whistling through the Abbey's ruins, you might just hear the answer.